Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this signing of a Memorandum of Understanding with the FDA, and I'm delighted to welcome to Arkansas the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Robert Califf. Thank you for being here as Commissioner. We had a great visit in the office earlier, and then of course I'm joined here by Dr. Dan Ron, Chancellor at UAMS, Jerry Adams of the Arkansas Research Alliance, who does an incredible job for us, Dr. William Slikker, Director of our National Center for Toxicological Research, and then of course we have Mike Preston, who is the Head of Economic Development, who's a big part of this as well. But welcome everybody to this, and shortly we'll sign a MOU with the FDA. And this is a renewal of a Memorandum of Understanding that we first signed 5 years ago. It's between the state of Arkansas and the FDA, and I want to describe why this is important and significant. First of all, it's startling to think that one of the largest and most important federal agencies, the FDA, has 8% of its employees right here in Arkansas at the National Center for Toxicological Research, with about 700 employees. Significant, high-paying jobs, researchers that are doing work of national and global significance. And so the FDA's presence in Arkansas is very, very important to our nation, to our state, and we want to enhance that partnership. And that is done through this type of research alliance in which the NCTR and FDA-type research is tied in with our other 5 research institutions in Arkansas. And so this MOU of sharing of information, of enhanced collaboration in the areas of bioinformatics, in the area of biomedicine, in the area of regulatory science. These are all important environments for research, and when we have this type of cooperation between the state and the FDA, then enhances the research opportunities. And Mike Preston pointed out that since the first MOU was signed, research dollars in Arkansas has increased by $4.8 million. And so there is a significant result from this enhanced relationship through the MOU. Whenever you look at the research that UAMS is doing, whenever you look at the Research Alliance and the cooperation with the other institutions, this is a great partnership that we want to make sure continues strong. The Commissioner has come here for this purpose, but it also gives us an opportunity to showcase what Arkansas is doing. I was delighted to tell him about what we're doing in our high schools and how we're leading this nation in computer science education, how we have nearly 4,000 students taking computer coding. Why is this important? Because data analytics is critically important to the future of medicine and the future of the FDA leadership in medicine and approving and taking on the challenge of cancer in the future. So I think we're on the cutting edge. This MOU will help us to stay on the cutting edge of research. And with that, I wanted to introduce the Commissioner for his remarks.
Thanks, Governor. It's great to be here with you in Arkansas. We've had a great visit already. Had dinner last night with Dr. Slikker and his team. Just a quick primer on the FDA. We are responsible for protecting and promoting the public health by regulating products that comprise about 20% of the nation's economy. And even I learned a bit about things I didn't know about that the FDA did when I came on board just about a year and a half ago. We regulate food, cosmetics, drugs, devices, biologics, and tobacco, and anything that emits radiation. So if you think about that, it's a huge part of the American economy. And as people, bright people, develop ideas about technologies, they have to show the FDA that their products are safe and effective. And as you might imagine, when it comes to issues like the really amazing new medical therapies that we have, the high-end devices like cardiac defibrillators that I worked with a lot as a cardiologist in my 32 years at Duke before coming here, questions come up about how safe and effective are they and how do they affect the human body, but also how they affect the environment that we're in. And to do that kind of work, we need very high-end informatics and quantitative sciences to measure things, which we can increasingly do better and better. NCTR is funded specifically to do that kind of work. It's a very special part of the FDA. As the governor mentioned, about 700 people really focus on high-end science. And so we rely on NCTR when we have questions about safety and effectiveness of products in general and the principles of the science that underlie all this. Nanotechnology has been mentioned extensively, and if you think about these little tiny particles that are can be very effective therapeutically, but also if used the wrong way could be quite dangerous. We're working closely with NCTR on the issues of being able to measure things to predict what is going to be useful and what might be dangerous. And then we have the Alliance, the Research Alliance, which is critical. And I was in academia for decades before coming to FDA. I'm highly aware of the importance of the interaction of government agencies with the brightest scientists. It's a collaborative issue. No one holds all the intelligence, and so it's critical that we have these kind of alliances. And having an entire state woven together like this is a very important part of what we see as the current state of the FDA. And also the future. Just as some simple evidence of that, one of the informatics colleagues that I work most closely with in my academic career, I didn't know it, it's just been recruited to University of Arkansas, and I'm sure that the fact that access to the data that we have at FDA through this alliance was an important part of what brought Dr. Zosas here to Arkansas. So it's great to be here, and we're going to spend the whole rest of the day after we leave here out at NCTR communing with the scientists there and thinking about how we should work together.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Jerry?
Let me make a few comments. I'm Jerry Adams. I'm the president and CEO of the Arkansas Research Alliance. And really under this MOU, ARA has really been the implementer and the coordinator of the collaborative activities between NCTR and our 5 research universities. I have to point out Art Norris out here, who's quietly sitting there. He is an extraordinary person. He's been the architect of the MOU and the partnership agreement and the past deputy director of NCTR. He looks very quiet, humble. He's not. He is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary visionary. But it's been really an honor to be part of this, and really excited about the renewal of both the MOU and also a partnership agreement. I'd like to let Dan Ron, Chancellor of UMS, make a few comments, because his whole relationship has been really emblematic of at UMS.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Governor. Let me just make a few comments, if I can, about the importance of both the support of our leadership here with Governor Hutchinson and the partnership with the FDA. We're in a competitive environment when it comes to recruiting and retaining talent. And the future of the economy in the region, quality of life in many ways, is going to be dependent upon the talent of the individuals among us. And in order to be successful in recruiting talent, you have to play to your strengths. So let me just comment for a moment, if I can, about the unique strength that is associated with NCTR being here. NCTR is important. It's in its name, the National Center for Toxicological Research. Its focus is on engaging in research that has to do with the areas of regulation that are the responsibility of the FDA. And none of us want to be regulated. I think that's a fair statement. I didn't want it when I was a kid. I don't want it now. But so the question is the regulation that we have necessary? Is it effective? Is it inadequate? Is it excessive? So there's and therefore, in order to answer that question, we've got to understand the science behind regulation. And because of the emerging areas of science, big data, genomics, nanotechnology, nanosensors, there's not a lot that's known about the potential benefits and toxicities and how to regulate new products, new devices. So the area of regulatory science is an area that we've been working on collaboratively and through a graduate program at UAMS that's been developed jointly with NCTR. I think we've graduated 30 individuals with advanced certification in regulatory science. Another area is this area of importance that the Commissioner has referred to, having to do with nanotechnology and nanoscience. Particularly the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, University of Arkansas Little Rock, and we have been collaboratively focusing on certain areas in nanomedicine and nanoscience. And we're doing that in collaboration with NCTR. And we're able to recruit scientists here to do the work because of the presence of NCTR and the work that's being done there. And then finally, there's this area of informatics and just big data management, whether it's population health sciences or it's research related to identifying genomic causes of disease. It involves the capacity to manage big data. And we at UAMS are investing in a major way in developing our capacity in biomedical informatics and bioinformatics. It's led by Dr. Fred Pryor, who we were able to recruit from St. Louis, from Washington University. He's the chair of the department in the College of Medicine, whose area is imaging science. Can we identify through imaging science biomarkers that are important, having to do with detection and progression of disease? That's very important to the FDA in the future. And the presence of NCTR is very important on our ability to recruit him. He brought with him what's called the National Cancer Imaging Archive, an asset of the National Cancer Institute, which is now resident here, in no small part because of the partnership and presence with NCTR. So we are consciously investing in areas that build on existing strengths and enable us to develop critical mass so that we can have national and international caliber programs. And these kinds of partnerships are critically important. And I in particular want to, well, certainly Art, I want to thank Jerry, and I want to thank Bill for your leadership, and Governor for your support.
Bill?
Bill Slikker, who is the director of NCTR.
Well, thank you, Governor, and thank you, Chancellor. And you know, I just want to say that it has really been something that the 700 employees, both contractors and government employees at NCTR, have appreciated, and that is the partnerships that we've been able to enjoy here in the state of Arkansas. And it's not only with the 5 major research universities, of which certainly the Chancellor really brings out as far as this interaction, but it also has to do with the individuals in the state, the training that we've been able to do. We've been able to train over 1,300 individuals in the last 20 years that have taken, you know, high-paying and powerful jobs within the state, and to use that kind of technical training to advance the state and move the state forward. It also means that the collaboration that we've had, the partnerships with these universities, has helped our scientists achieve greater goals than ever before. And you've heard a lot about the nanotechnology, about the bioinformatics, but you need teams of people. Science now is definitely a team sport, and you build these teams of individuals to actually get the work done. And that's one thing that this collaboration with the universities has really made possible for our NCTR scientist team. So I just wanted to thank the state and the governor in particular for the support of this Memorandum of Understanding, which allows us to continue this interaction. And also, of course, the research universities, the Arkansas Research Alliance, which Jerry and Art and now Brian Barnhouse also lead. And certainly the idea that we have support from the very top of FDA, and Dr. Rob Califf is so instrumental in showing the support for NCTR and the kind of work that we do. We really appreciate him being here to see this in person and to interact with the staff at NCTR, which so much appreciate his visit. So thank you all very much.
And with that, Commissioner, if you'll join me, we'll sign and then we'll take questions.
With the MOU, is the state dedicating or pledging a certain amount of funding and resources toward this? I guess kind of flip side with the feds, the same thing.
The MOU is a statement that we're going to have a partnership, that we're going to enhance the relationships in terms of research. There is obviously in it, from an FDA standpoint, it's dependent upon Congress appropriating funds that can, and so there's not any specific dollar amount that's attached to it, but this is, as you can see from the, since the signing of the first MOU, a substantial increase in research funding, and we expect the same type of excess from this.
Governor, and I guess some of the gentlemen talked about some of the significant research that has happened. Is there any, can you provide an example of a specific project or in the past or that's ahead of you that is significant for the state?
Yes, thank you. Three comments there. One is in the area of nanomaterials and the nanomaterial of graphene in particular, which is found in a lot of electronic instruments, and to understand more about not only the characterization of graphene, which is a thin layer of carbon atoms, but also whether or not its disposition in the whole body is of concern, and whether or not it has any biological effects. So those are some studies that are ongoing currently. Some of those results are beginning to come out in the published literature. The other area is support of bioinformatics, and this has been very key. Not only the development of a consortium of bioinformatic researchers across the entire state, but also training of students in that arena, as well as garnering extra support. And one of those areas where the bioinformatic support has been very useful is the third item, and that's the idea of novel biomarkers, especially in terms of treating cancer. And this is done in collaboration with UAMS and the other 4 major universities within the state to understand how to use these biomarkers to not only diagnose cancer, but also look at prognosis for future treatment and a way in which the medications can most readily decrease the activity of the cancer. And doing this both in human studies as well as parallel animal studies to look at the importance of this process of these biomarkers indicating when cancer is advancing or diminishing. And this has been done because of these powerful bioinformatic tools that allow you to do the analysis not only of the human genome that are being treated, but also the animal genome that are being treated simultaneously with the same medications and using the same biomarkers to look at outcomes. So those are just 3 examples that are moving forward currently.
Well, can I just mention one quick thing about your last point? Just to make it very graphic, what we're talking about here is what's been called liquid biopsy. And you know, I think we all have great hope that if we were to have cancer, for example, rather than having a surgeon have to go in and do a surgical procedure to get a specimen, that it might be possible to just get a blood sample and use these very high fidelity measurements to make the diagnosis and also to direct the treatment for cancer. So I think liquid biopsy is sort of a term that you can get your arms around as you think about the potential here. This can't be done without this high-end informatics that Dr. Slikker was talking about.
So does the center itself develop these technologies only, or does it work with outside companies, entities? Do they bring stuff in to be tested, or is it solely encapsulated in the center? We design, build, test, do all that. How is the center set up?
Right. Oftentimes what happens with some of these new approaches is they have to be evaluated to see how rigorous they are and how reproducible they are. So it could be in some cases that NCTR and university staff working together may develop some of these, but just as likely they're likely to help to evaluate them to see how useful they're going to be, how credible these particular new tools are going to be. And that is really essential for FDA, because FDA has to know that the tools and approaches they're using are going to be reproducible and credible. So that's how NCTR works with the other parts of FDA in terms of the regulatory centers, as well as with the university, do it in a collaborative way to assure ourselves that the tools that we're using and the approaches that we're developing are going to be useful for regulatory decision making.
Where does the center fall in the lines of brand new product coming on the market, or technology or medicine? Where is it the beginning phase, middle, or is it kind of the end of this can be approved after y'all have looked at it, tested it?
Actually, NCTR staff are working in all 3 phases that you mentioned. Some things are under development in collaboration with others. Some are in the middle zone where they're being evaluated, and some are actually at the point where there's patents on them. And of course, others would have to pick up those patents and move them to the next level, but at least we get them to the patent stage. And so that kind of opportunity is true throughout all of FDA, but certainly is practiced here at the NCTR as being one of the 7 centers of FDA.
Can I make a point about that also, because I think it's a very perceptive question. One thing that sort of startles people these days, if you read all the headlines, you'd think that every treatment that people develop works, and it's just a matter of getting some tests done and then it's on the market. It turns out in a report we just got last month, for new drugs, for example, 92% of new drugs that start out in human clinical trials never make it to market because there are problems. This is really hard work, and no one can predict until you've done the studies. So these studies are really absolutely critical. But it's also important to point out, as Bill did, that we are not a product company. We're FDA, so we do a lot of evaluation. But ultimately, the winners, those who develop products that really are useful and pass the evaluation, that's where the private industry comes in. I just heard from the governor, you got a really low unemployment rate right now, less than 4%. Pretty remarkable. So this is a big part of the economy, and are doing our job well to promote the things that do work and help get those out, but stop the things that are going to be dangerous to people is really, I think, the main mission of the enterprise that NCTR represents.
I want to invite Mike Preston if you had any comment in terms of the economics of it.
Okay. Can't pass up the opportunity to be on the microphone. I just got to say that, I've enjoyed the partnership with Jerry and NCTR and now with the FDA. I think you've seen the results from the MOU, as the governor alluded to, the excuse me, the additional research dollars that are flowing down to our state. We're happy at AEDC, as now what used to be the Science and Technology Authority, is a part of AEDC in the merger that took place during the special session in 2015. The EPSCoR program is part of that. So all this ties together, and to me, I look at it, we've really just started scratching the surface here in Arkansas. We've got a great platform from which to build on, and the great work of Jerry and his team for many years, but really the sky's the limit for us. And as we look at the low unemployment that we have right now, these jobs that are coming out in this industry allow us to focus on wages that are much higher. It's going to help us move the needle on our overall economy as we continue down the road of GDP growth. So we're excited about this MOU. It shows the partnership that we have with both the state, the federal government, and then private business trying to bring in these new jobs. So, Governor, we thank you for doing this MOU.
Back to one of the original questions, it might have been Andrew, but the benefit of this MOU is, one, enhancing research dollars to Arkansas. It increases the likelihood of research dollars coming here when we have this type of partnership. Secondly, it enhances and strengthens NCTR, one of our most critical assets in terms of federal agencies here in this state and research capacity. And so without this kind of partnership, then NCTR is weakened. We need that partnership. We want to keep it strong. Finally, I'll point this out as just one of the future goals. It was pointed out that we have interconnectivity among our 5 research institutions in terms of high-speed internet at the highest level for massive amounts of research to flow. We don't have that connectivity yet with NCTR. And so that's a future goal, because if we could connect NCTR to that research channel, then the collaboration will even increase from that. So this is a strong partnership, but we want to make it stronger. Thank you all very much.